Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I am your host, Zanman Shane Sabuni, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about some pro wrestling today, believe it or not.
Shocking. Yeah, shocking. On this show, we're going to talk about pro
Can
wrestling.
you believe it?
Well,
Um,
considering our last few shows have gotten into DC Universe and Marvel and all that, to
you know,
be
you,
honest, it does kind of surprise me a little.
I really do want to talk about, for the most part, G1 Climax tonight, but I'm also kind of wondering something, Jeff. So, you know my feelings about WWE lately, and about,
Mm.
especially since they did that shit with Jerry Briscoe, and about NXT even. But now I'm seeing that one of my favorite pro wrestlers on the planet is challenging for the world championship on NXT's
Mhm.
Takeover 31.
This weekend on
Yeah, give me
Saturday.
give me a reason not to watch it, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna, and I don't care if I start it late. I'm gonna watch that match. And nice thing, it's on the network. So if I miss it, I can always pick it up afterwards. But um, I am so excited to see that, especially with the new Finn Balor. And everything I've heard about him has been this is the best he's looked since he left New Japan with his heel persona. And to be honest, I think this is the first time he's been a heel since he left New Japan.
I think so too. And Kyle O'Reilly is now a babyface. So
Well, yes and no, and that is something I actually wanted to get to. I figured we'd get to it later, but
it's Kyle O'Reilly, man.
they are talking about breaking up the Undisputed Era. Adam Cole in his match against whoever it was, Pat McAfee.
Hmm.
Because Pat McAfee is just kind of a natural heel, so Adam Cole kind of played the face during that.
Yeah.
And ever since then, he's been more and more of a face to the point where he actually got on mic on TV and endorsed Kyle O'Reilly as the next champion. And then he also got on Twitter and said that this has been one of his best friends for ages. He is so proud and so happy that he's finally getting this shot.
Hmm.
And it's just not Adam Cole like. So, but they're talking about, and this is what upsets me, is when your top two guys are turning face, the rest of you turns face. It happened with Triple H and DX. Triple H kind of turned face, and everybody else came along with him. It's happened with other factions throughout time. Every time the Horseman turns face, it was usually Flair, and then everybody following. If Adam Cole's turning face, Kyle O'Reilly's turning face, why are Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong staying heel? Why are we breaking up the Undisputed Era? And what's going to happen to Strong and Fish after they're done feuding with Cole and O'Reilly?
Are we looking at 3 years now? The Undisputed Era have been together, or
Yeah,
is it?
and not just together, but the best part outside of Champa, because I think Champa had that incredible run in 2018.
Hmm.
But outside of Champa, they've been the best part of NXT.
They
Probably the
have,
best part of the WWE over the last 3 years.
they have, and
So
they
why
and they
break them up?
well, they've been the best part, and but they've also and they did they they did fulfill the prophecy, right? The prophecy
Right?
of them having every bit of gold in NXT. So the thing is that growth means change sometimes, right? So
Right.
at this point, what is left for them to do as a faction?
As a heel faction. And see, I felt this exact same way about the Shield. The Shield went on that tremendous heel run from 2012 to 2014. They started to turn heel. They had 2 or 3 months where they were face, or they started to turn face. I'm sorry. They had 2 or 3 months where they were a face faction, and then they broke up. We
Hmm.
never got to see their run as a face faction. When you look at the greatest stables of all time, um, you've got the Nation, who was heels all throughout. I mean, they started to get cheered more and more towards the end, but ultimately they were heels. DX, they were heels. They turned to face, back to heels, face, so on. And they always were able to, no matter what they were, heel or face, they were always able to shine. Same thing with the Horsemen. The Horsemen were able to do it no matter what they were. But
Oh, come on! Are you
outs
going to tell me that the face horsemen were as good as the heel horsemen?
no, not it. No,
I'd laugh
no,
you out of the
not at all.
building, dude.
Not at all.
Okay,
Not at all. I mean, as a heel horseman, especially the 80s, there was nothing better.
okay.
But I'm just saying, at least they were given a chance to run as a face faction. You look at Lij in Japan, Chaos in Japan. They both were heel factions. Now, Lij has kind of gotten that tweener DX role, but Chaos, they're straight up face. and they've been able to survive. It's like, why can't we give these factions? Why couldn't we give the Shield a little bit of time to see if they could work as a face? Why do we have to split up Undisputed Era? Literally, Undisputed Era has been the best thing about WWE TV, and I'm talking all brands for the last 3 years.
Because I think the formula has always been that the heels get together to kind of have each other's backs, and because they're going to help each other, they're going to cheat. And then the baby faces are supposed to be the ones that stand alone. That stand alone. They don't need backup. They don't need help. Or if they do, it's only for a very limited amount of time to fight against a group of heels.
Right, and
So
that's why
that's the thing is that when we get these great faction versus faction battles between a stable of heels and a stable of faces, it's great, but then those stable of faces generally just dissipate, right?
yeah,
um,
it's true.
so that's the thing is that if the undisputed era um, were to stay together as baby faces, what faction is there in NXT for them to face off against?
Well, with moving people off the roster like Dijakovic and turning Gargano heel and things like that, the only thing I could think of was it would have been Champa Lee and Dijakovic, from a couple, and Aleister Black from a few years ago in the Hell in the Cell. But all those guys are gone. Oh no, it was Kevin Owens. I'm sorry, it was Kevin Owens that came in. But two of those guys or three of those guys are on the main roster and not coming back. So outside of Champa, and I'm not watching enough of NXT to, I guess, really say there's no strong baby faces to go against them. But I think with the way they have run, with the way they've been, Undisputed Era was a heel faction that was challenging Drew McIntyre as the babyface, that challenged Bobby Roode as the babyface,
Hmm.
that challenged Johnny Gargano as the babyface. It was a faction against a babyface. So why not make it the other way around? All of a sudden, Finn Balor's the heel champion, so why not Undisputed Era target him? And then, of course, he's this heel champion, kind of like Ciampa was, that wants to do it all by himself. He doesn't want help, and eventually,
Because I think that would only work against either a stable of heels or against a dominant type heel. Like say that it was like the Big Show as a heel, where it would take four guys maybe to take him down.
all right, that makes sense.
I think the perception is right or wrong. The perception and the tradition in pro wrestling has always been the scrappy underdog babyface. And that scrappy underdog babyface, or even if it's not a scrappy underdog babyface, if it's just like a badass babyface, doesn't need a stable of three other guys to be behind him. He's going to
Right.
stand. He's going to stand on his own. So
But
I
a
mean,
heel,
so
in
I mean,
order to be a
I,
real heel, does.
what I
And
right, and what I'd really like to see now that you're saying, that we're talking about this, is not that they go babyface as a faction, or that they split up as a faction, or
just
that
be
they or
tweeners.
that or that they have this big antagonistic breakup, but maybe just a thing that like we're going to go our separate ways for now, but if we need each other, we're going to come back together.
The
You
only
know.
problem with something like that is it's hard to recapture the magic that they have. They're still the most popular thing in NXT. Once they go their separate ways, and if they do have their blow up feud, which is what's being rumored, that's going to ruin any kind of reuniting. That killed DX. I mean, DX, when they broke up, it was, Triple H against X Pac for a while, and then, the Outlaws kind of got involved, and then they all broke up and went their separate ways. They didn't have the same luster when they came back together. And I think that would be the same thing with um, Undisputed Era. I think if they're going to go their separate ways, they go their separate ways. But in true WWE fashion, they're going to force these two to fight each other. They're going to force these two sides to fight each other and have blow off matches and all that. And then Cole and O'Reilly are going to rise to the top because Cole is just that good. And Riley is just that good and has developed so much better, more of a personality in NXT than he ever had before. They've got their history as Future Shock. They've got so much going for them that they'll be able to rise above. But Bobby Fish outside of Red Dragon has not been anything spectacular. Roderick Strong has stood on his own, but as a singles guy, he's kind of vanilla and boring. So it's I I I think Roderick Strong may be able to come out of this. He's so much better as a heel, but I can't see him being a heel on his own.
I think that um, I do think it's possible. I don't think I can't think of a time we've ever actually seen it, but I do think it's well, the Shield is actually a good thing. This time, I guess we've actually seen it, but very briefly. But I do think it's possible to have a stable feud against each other and then come back together. I think, but it just takes a lot better writing than we've ever seen. It would take a compelling story why they come back together, not just Scott Hall being in Team Hollywood and Kevin Nash being in the Wolf Pack,
Right. But both are,
and then 6 months later they're in the crowd going, "We're getting the band back together," without
yeah,
any
and
explanation as to why they
essentially
came back together. You know?
they were both heels. It's not
Yes,
like they're both heels in different factions. I think you kind of nailed it. The closest we've ever seen to the magic working was the Shield. But did Roman Reigns ever really truly come around to be a part of it? Because if I remember right, he joined forces with them one night, and then he was gone with his health issues,
that's right. That they were coming back together when that happened. You're right. That
right?
is true.
And then Ambrose turned heel when they realized that they weren't going to be able to actually get the whole Shield together for an epic reunion run. They tried.
But it was still
They
a story well told that was going to work. You
It's
know?
true. That is true. I will give you that. And that might have been the last time, because when I think back about all these storylines, the only time I can ever remember, I mean, outside of the Horsemen, but the Horsemen never really feuded. They had their, storyline feuds where it was just to screw over Sting and stuff like that, but ultimately the Horsemen never feuded. The only other stable that I can remember, and I guess you can't really call it a stable because initially it was only a couple of them, and then it was a couple of brothers that were together, and then ultimately they all came together, would have been the Hart Foundation. Because I mean, initially it was Anvil and Jim, or it was Anvil and Brett,
Hmm.
and then it was Owen and Brett who were together for a while, and then Owen and Brett had that just epic feud, and then they eventually came together and brought the other guys in. But that's the closest to a stable ever feuding and coming back together and working that I think I've ever seen.
There's one that we're forgetting about just because maybe because it did work. We just probably didn't care because of the situation involving it. But Evolution came back together and that worked pretty well as well
Uh,
against the Shield. I mean, and it
yeah,
were
but
and they told the story well as to why they were coming back together, and there was always that like lingering, simmering distrust between all three guys too. So
and there was never really them coming back together because one of the members of Evolution turned on them and endorsed the Shield. So it's not like Flair came back. Flair actually in an interview that was weird, and I remember cringing at it, going, "What the hell did I just see?" Was out there speaking, and as Evolution's coming out, he goes, "I side with Shield," and then ran off. So it was never the true initial group that came back together. Had it been all four of them together against the Shield, then yeah, but it was
okay,
never that. It
yeah,
was
that's fair.
because of Flair saying, Flair, who was one of the integral parts of Evolution, standing in the middle of the ring and going, "I now endorse these guys who are not Evolution." It just never made that comeback seem real. And then, of course, it only lasted for what, 2 weeks before Batista walked away and Randy Orton went his separate ways and so on.
Well, no, it was at least 2 months, but I mean, but you're close. I mean, I see what you're saying. I'm just saying that that was another time that I think they did a good job, and they actually carried over their simmering rivalry,
Right.
but it still worked very well. Um,
Yeah, and I mean they brought it together in the right context. Like if you look at other stables that come back together, DX just kind of came back together because X Pac
Money.
and the Outlaws had done nothing to do, and Triple H was the leader of the McMahon Helmsley era. So they kind of came back together for that. Most outside of you're right. The Shield and the way that the three remaining members of Evolution came back did make sense. Were able to write it, so it made sense. I just don't know if they'll be able to do something like that with a group like the Undisputed Era. And I could, and hear me out. I think the reason a lot of that worked before was because these guys went on to be established stars on their own.
Hmm.
Every member of the Shield went on to hold the heavyweight title. Every member had an established singles run. Same thing with Evolution. The three members that were there had an established singles run. So it was easy to kind of write them back together because they were still on the same level. Where if O'Reilly and Cole go off and do their thing, and Fish, especially Bobby Fish, but Bobby Fish is the one I'm most worried about. And I guess he's older and everything too, but regardless, Fish and Strong are not going to have anywhere near the next 2 years that O'Reilly and Cole are going to have.
Come here.
So it's going to be harder to write them back in as trusting partners when they're not on the same level.
Come over here.
You're chasing your dog, aren't you?
No, I'm not chasing. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to mute when I lift my headset up. So
Yeah, it doesn't.
that's great.
I will remember that next time I hear moaning, not to call it out.
Well, it depends what I'm doing, I suppose. But
Fair enough.
no, the puppy's trying to get up here, and the oldest dog is growling at him. So I was trying to get her to come closer to me, so that he
Ah,
would not be intimidated into not getting up here. But now it's all settled. So
oh well, that's good.
yeah,
I'm glad. I'm glad you're all happy over there now.
I didn't say I was happy. I said it was all settled.
So the other thing that I was going to bring up, we might as well talk about it now because we haven't gotten to G1 yet. But the other thing I wanted to bring up is AEW from last night.
I haven't seen it yet,
Um,
so don't bring it up.
watch it. Watch it as soon as you can because it was fantastic.
Last
Like
week's was
absolutely
fantastic too,
fantastic.
though.
The fact that the storyline going on with MJF in the inner circle is just phenomenal. MJF bought jackets for the entire inner circle and conveniently forgot Sammy Guevara. And then, he said, "Oh, gee, I just forgot. I forgot about you. I'm sorry. I'll buy you one." And then Jericho and MJF had their little back and forth like they used to do about, "Do you want to join the inner circle? Do you want me to join the inner circle?" And they did that. And then there was a little bit with Sammy and Chris that um, was like Sammy was calling MJF a loser, and then Jericho gets on, "I don't think he's a loser." Somebody that I saw today, I think it was What Culture. Yeah, it was. It was a What Culture with that Simon, whatever his name is, the guy that was a wrestler in Defiant.
Sure.
Uh, he uh, he said that it was kind of like a nation domination type thing, where Sammy got Farouked by MJF, and he's hoping that, and this would be kind of a cool storyline for MJF to come in, eventually oust Jericho from the inner circle, and then Jericho goes on the face run that eventually he's going to anyway.
Did you watch last week's AEW with Jacob over the weekend, like you said you were going to?
Oh, I brought it up, but then he and I ended up getting into football and doing that instead.
That's disgusting.
Well,
Sorry I asked.
he's a bigger football fan than I am, so it kind of just worked that way.
These are such Minnesota stereotypical males.
Well, no, we also like hockey.
Well, I thought last week's AEW was phenomenal too. So,
Yeah, I heard it was. I just didn't. I didn't want to watch any of the recap or highlights because I was afraid that it would ruin something for me.
Yeah.
It's on my list of stuff to do.
Well, yeah, but you've already watched last night's. Then didn't you kind of get spoiled on last week?
A little, but not enough that I won't still enjoy it.
All right, fair enough.
There's an Adam Page, Kenny Omega storyline going on. There's this tournament, which I'm going to be honest, I like this tournament situation better than the way they've been running things before. I'm going to give.
Wait. Maybe I'm missing something. There's a tournament going on in AEW.
Yeah, to crown the new number one contender.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it's starting, I think, next week and culminating at their next big show. But we bitched about how this whole ranking system and all that stuff, but yet they do tournaments and everything like that. One thing I really like about AEW and the way they're doing things is they're treating it like that Japanese style where there's tournaments, there's battle royals, there's, all these things to crown. Somebody has to earn the title shot, not just have it given to them because he stared at my mom funny. Outside of MJF, who just kind of verbally attacked Moxley, when was the last time there was Cody, probably a title shot that didn't deserve it, that hadn't gone out and actually earned it through a tournament or a battle royal or a six-man tag or whatever the case may be for heavyweight. I mean, the other ones
Right.
are a wash,
Right.
but as far as a world title, you had MJF who just kind of went out there and started insulting Moxley, and before that, it was probably Cody against Jericho. But other than that, everybody kind of goes out and earns their shots.
And we haven't seen, the thing that I hate, which is okay. So, and this has become a WWE trope, and I think they tried to do away with it recently, just because people got so fed up with it. But how many years did it take before people got before they finally changed it, where it's okay, these guys are wrestling for the title this month, and now next month they're wrestling again for the title. The month after that, they're wrestling again for the title. You know,
They
you
just did that with Orton and Drew McIntyre.
Did they? Okay, so
Yeah,
because it was constantly 3 months in a row of the same guys facing wrestling for the championship.
yeah, because they went on 3 month. It was longer than the last couple of years. That's been going on since what, 2000,
That's what I'm saying. It's been a long time they've been doing it.
maybe 2002, because I think the last time was when Kurt Angle won the title from Brock,
Hmm.
when Kurt beat Brock. After that, it was, you're right. It was every single thing. It was, they had the first match, they had the rubber match, and then they had the payoff match. And that's not just the heavyweight title feud. That was all major feuds.
Hmm.
Like everything that Cena was involved in, whether it was title or not. AJ Styles was involved in title or not. Or even Ambrose and Seth Rollins had 3 matches in a row. So I am kind of glad that for the most part they've gotten out of that, but they did just kind of bring that back when Strowman lost his belt to Roman Reigns and then immediately faced him at the next pay-per-view. And in this, on the other side, Drew McIntyre beat Randy Orton, and then immediately the next pay-per-view they wrestle each other again.
Yeah, I mean, if it
Which
happens, and if it happens sometimes, that's fine. But it just when it was a constant, it's just like, can you get on with it? Can you?
I don't think it should ever happen. I think once you lose you go back to the back of the line and you work your way back up again. Once you got your shot, it goes to the next guy who won a tournament or a battle royal. Or that's why I like Japanese wrestling so much, is because they are really on these. I mean, yeah, okay, some people get title matches that don't make sense. Like when Omega was the holder, he gave the title shot to both Cody and Kota,
Hmm.
even though they weren't the next in line. That's going to happen on the road shows. But for their big pay-per-views, in order for somebody to face a champion at Dominion, to face a champion at Wrestle Kingdom, to face a champion at the anniversary show, they've got to win some kind of tournament to get there.
Right.
It's not just given to them. And I like the fact that AEW is kind of doing those same type of things, just on a smaller scale, where they're, like Lance Archer's the next challenger for Moxley. And then after Archer, they're doing a tournament to find out who's going to be the next challenger after that. Wait, no, wait. I think Archer got hurt.
Did he?
I think that's why they're doing a tournament.
Oh, interesting.
Let me, I need to double check. Don't quote me on that yet.
And then even last week's title match between Moxley and Eddie Kingston was because Kingston never got eliminated from the Battle Royal.
Right.
So he had a legitimate claim to being, to earning that title shot, because the last two guys in the Battle Royal were him and Murder Rock Monster. Well, he never went over the top rope, therefore he was never technically eliminated. So,
Yeah. And that
and
brings
dude,
me,
dude, even if you don't watch all of AEW last week, you got to watch that match.
oh, I will. I
Okay.
will. And you know me, I like to, I don't always like to watch full shows, but if I hear there's a great match, I'll definitely check it out. Or even just a good match that's great on the storyline aspect and all that, I'll watch it. I still do that with AEW to this day. And that's, to be honest, I kind of miss Ryan on Twitter, because he was always really, really, really good at pointing out those great matches on shows that I would not normally watch. Like he would have watched this latest WWE pay per view and told me, "Hey, watch this match, watch this match, watch that match," and that was great because I'd go back and watch that match, and I watched a lot of great matches because of that, ones I never would have normally seen.
And then
Uh,
the other match on that show that was just um, a lot of fun was Orange Cassidy challenging for the TNT title against Mr. Brody Lee.
I heard
Um,
that.
and here's the thing with Orange Cassidy. Like a year ago, you and I were like, I don't get it. I don't get the popularity of this guy. And for years, I'm touting Hangman Page, and the stuff happened with Pac that kind of caused Page push to be kind of derailed and stuff like that. And now they're building him back up. And so Cassidy is kind of like in the spot right now where I imagine Page would be in, where
Right.
he's just kind of like the
Flavor of the month.
yeah, flavor of the
That's the
month.
pro.
The crowd's behind. He's got the crowd behind him. He's getting that push, and now Paige is starting to get that role too. Now he's out of a tag team, so a lot of times in the past, like if a guy that I loved was getting kind of pushed aside for somebody who I didn't get, I would have gotten bitter about it. I can't do that with Orange Cassidy.
Well, no, because I'm finally starting now that I've seen him actually be a real wrestler and not just that sloth style.
Hmm.
I'm starting to realize exactly how great he is. Oh, and before I forget, Lance Archer tested positive for COVID. That's why he lost his title shot. That's why they're doing the tournament.
Wow. Okay.
So, but anyway, back to what you were saying. It's that is one thing that I really, really dislike about AEW is their flavor of the month kids. It's Darby or Orange Cassidy. 2 months ago it was Darby Allen. Before that it was Sammy. And then for a while there it was Sean Spears. And they
But is
just
it
they
really flavor of the
continually
month, or is it just, or is it really similar to what we see in NJPW, where they heat somebody up, give them a shot,
and cool them down a
and
little
then
bit
cool them
to
down a little bit, and then bring them back up, so they've always got like a rotating batch of challenges, but also are kind of like giving them a test to see how they do in that limelight too.
well, and it's not to be honest, now that I think about it, that's a smart way to do it because you don't give a new guy a huge test to burn out. Like if you saw it, if Darby Allen had still been being pushed to the moon a year later, would we still be cheering for him, or would be like thinking, "Man, they really pushed this guy way too far, way too fast"? But you heat him up a little bit, you give him some title shots, then you cool him off, throw him in a secondary, maybe a third title or a third storyline. Then you heat him back up, get him in the title mix again,
Hmm.
and then you cool him off a little bit so he's back in a secondary or a C storyline. Maybe that is the better approach. Because to be honest, I truly think that if Darby Allen, after his initial push, had been continually pushed to where he's shoved down our throat every week, like certain other American companies like to do, I probably would have been sick of him at this point. And I'm still excited to see him when he comes out.
Yeah, I mean, we want to, the idea is you get so emotionally wrapped up in these guys' careers and their stories that when they finally win the big one, it's a big deal. It's and then it resonates with you in a bigger way than if you'd seen them get pushed to the top and then they hold the title for a couple months, then go back down. You know what I mean?
Right. And with guys that young, that are pretty much no names, that's probably a much better way of booking it is you get us wrapped in, you get us wanting him back. You push him up a little bit. We love where he's at. Then we get frustrated because he's not there anymore. Then you push him back again. And we're like, oh yeah, my favorite's back. And then you drop him back a little bit. And maybe that's kind of what they're doing with Adam Page too. Both you and I are like, oh hell yeah, get Adam Page right to the top. But ultimately, would we still love him in 2 years if he was pushed to the top and stayed there?
And the thing is that I really think that was the plan. I really think the plan was to have Hangman Page be their first champion. and,
Yeah,
and then and then this stuff with Pac happened, and the only thing, and he didn't have that chance to build up the way that he needed to in order to have that spot.
and
So
that's probably true.
so I mean I do think it was a wise move to bring him, to cool him back down, put him in that tag team and give him that spotlight, but also like have him be sharing the spotlight with quite possibly the best wrestler on the planet in Kenny Omega.
Well, and the other thing too, I mean, we both said this in his match against Jericho is that he wasn't ready. Neither you or I felt like he. I mean, we loved the fact that he was there. I mean, he's easily one of our favorite wrestlers, and I'm not just saying mine or yours. Like you and I have these shared, like we have our differences. Like I like Flair, you like, um, you know, uh, whoever, and but we have our shared ones. We both love Jericho. We both love AJ Styles. We both love Sonata. We both love Adam Page. Um, and I think we both kind of said at the same time that he just was not ready for that spot against Jericho. And he proved it at the end with that horrible finish that he really kind of botched because he didn't give it time to gel
Hmm.
before he jumped on top of Jericho for the pin. He hit that lariat or what I can't remember what the move was, but I think it was a lariat. No, it wasn't. It
No,
was
it
that
it was
whatever
the
his
Deadeye.
last Deadeye. Yeah, he hit the Deadeye and then just immediately jumped on. And then when Jericho kicked out, where if he'd laid there for a second and used a little bit of psychology and moved over closer and then covered him maybe with one arm, it would have made more sense. But the how excited he was and how he jumped on it was just him being young. And to be honest, after watching that match, I think both you and I agreed at the time that he just did not deserve it.
Right.
And I think he's grown as a character throughout that time and ever since, where now, I mean, this whole heel angle, where he's coming out of this as the only babyface out of the bunch, which is really odd when you look at the way that angle was set up, as it was leading us one way is Paige is going to be the bad guy. Paige is going to turn on everyone. Paige is going to be, you know, the badass that's the heel going forward. And as you look at it, as you look at the way the storyline developed, and it ended up being Nick, Matt, and Kenny who were the heels. And then you looked at the reason why they were the heels. Why did Nick and Matt turn on Adam Page? Because he cost them a chance in the number one contendership. Who was the number one contendership against? It was against him.
Hmm.
It makes sense after what we saw, where they barely beat the Bucks, that he would want to give that title shot to somebody other than the Bucks. What he did made sense. To any normal person, it made sense. The Bucks used it as a way to turn on him. Kenny turned on him because they lost to FTR. And yeah, okay, his whole friendship with FTR and the drinking buddy thing and all that stuff is one thing, but ultimately Page has proven throughout his existence that he is loyal, regardless of what he feels of someone. He always had Matt's back, regardless of how much he hated Matt. He always had Nick's back, regardless. He always had Kenny's back, regardless of what happened. So when Kenny walked away from him, it kind of brought up in me, and I'm assuming other people, because I'm not alone in my feelings, but it made Page, with everything that Matt and Nick did to him throughout the time, lead up to their fight when they called him a jobber and all that stuff, and then this, when they eventually turned on him after he cost them the number one championship, and then Kenny walking out on him, really made Page the sympathetic character, when all along we thought he was going to be the guy that was going to turn heel on everyone.
Right.
And now you look back at, gee, why did he want to leave the Elite? Oh, is it because he saw what we're now seeing and he didn't want to be associated with it? He's really coming out as a sympathetic face character that I think is going to benefit him big time in the long run.
Yep. Completely agreed. Um, I was excited to talk about G1, here today, and I think you were too. But
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was kind of thinking about it, like G1, and maybe there are times where they have these transcendental matches on the G1, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've seen them before, like Kota versus Tanahashi, or Naito versus Omega. But for the most part, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jeff, but for the most part, we see these great matches, but they're almost like popcorn matches, right? I mean, I mean,
Well,
it hardly ever is it where like it just sticks with you over time.
you're right.
The spots in these matches. But I'll tell you what, um, Naito versus Tanahashi, Naito versus ZSJ this year were absolutely phenomenal matches. They were just
Well, and
outstanding in those 30 minutes.
Jay White versus Shingo was amazing. Kota versus Okada was amazing.
Yep, that too.
In fact, the first three matches Jay White had, his one against Ibushi and then his one against Okada, were all absolutely amazing. Just amazing matches. Nowhere near on that, transitional level, or nowhere near as good as he's had with all of them before. But the fact that Jay White was able to walk in,
I actually haven't seen the Wade Okada match yet.
oh my God, that was great too. And it was short.
That
It,
was
it
that was
was,
that was the third. That was his third match, right? That
yeah, that
was
was night five.
night three of A Block.
Well,
Okay, yeah.
I may have gotten excited after watching the first two nights of the English commentary that I started watching past that in Japanese commentary. So I'm actually up to night seven.
Okay,
Just
that's cool.
saying.
That's cool. I've seen the first four. I've not seen past B Block Night two yet. So
I and I'm gonna say this: that A block is stacked.
isn't it? Yeah.
Like they're out of that A block, the only person that would surprise me if they came out of this would be Taiji Ishimori.
I you know
Seriously.
in A Block also well
Or no, I'm sorry, Yujiro Takahashi.
yeah
That's who would surprise me.
yeah Takahashi would yeah um
Everybody else that's in the A block, if they ended up winning this, I'd be like, eh. And that includes Taichi.
that includes Jeff
Like,
Cobb.
yeah,
Okay.
anybody in that block. Of course, you've got that top six. You got Suzuki, Ishii, White, Takagi, Ibushi, and Okada, and then of course Osprey. So you've got that top seven, and they're all great. And but the way this A block is set up with all that, that's their seven out of top nine guys in the company. So if those seven guys wore each other out, Taichi or Jeff Cobb sneaking in and winning it would not surprise me at all.
I got to tell you, and well, first of all, like the A block has already given me, some great matches this year, and also my two just huge like moments where I like just like sitting there in shock. The first one was Ibushi on night one beating
Yep.
Okada.
Yes.
The second one was Taichi on night two beating Suzuki. Um,
That
and
surprised you?
yeah, it did surprise me, and then it kind of came out of nowhere. It was kind of the finish of remember WrestleMania 22, the
Yeah.
main event. It was kind of the same finish, right? Where
Oh, you're talking night three, by the way, not night two
night two of A Block is what I'm
of
talking
A
about.
block. Okay.
Yeah, night three total, but yeah, where he's about ready to get him with the Gosh style pile driver, and then Taichi turns it into Black Mephisto right
See,
away.
and it was
And
such a short match that I never really invested into either one. I mean, I invested in Suzuki because he's 53 fucking years old and he's still killing people.
hmm
Um, but ultimately, I've been over the last couple of years, we've documented it. You can go back and listen to shows. I was even a Tai Chi fan before you even thought he was halfway decent. He has improved so much over the last few years with how short a match it was, with the fact that Tai Chi was kind of mocking, or I'm sorry, Minoru was kind of mocking him,
hmm
leading into it. It just every sign pointed towards him finally beating his quote unquote mentor. So I was not surprised by it. Um,
I
I
wasn't
thought it,
shocked by it, but I was surprised by it.
see, and I wasn't even surprised by it. The one
And
that I was
and you
surprised by,
I before you moved to yours, I also wanted to say that you're right. I mean, you've been kind of like being swayed by Tai Chi over the last year and a half. I'm now to the point where after what he's done in his last four major matches that I've seen, the two tag matches, the match
yep.
against Jeff Cobb and the match against Suzuki, I'm like really starting to appreciate what that guy can do in the ring.
And I started to notice it in his never feud against Goto. It was just there was something different about Tai Chi where it was like the light switch finally clicked on and he just got how to storytell.
Yes, and
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 all
and
of
I and I would say I probably started his match against Naito in the Intercontinental title match last
Yeah,
year.
and that
But
makes sense. And that does make sense.
but
Because that was
it's been reinforced since COVID.
and it's like something's like he was horrible. I remember when I first started watching this, what, 6 years ago. I would look at you and go, "Who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah,
It makes no sense. There's nothing about him that makes sense. He's horrible. There's not." And then it was when he started to really get that push against Goto, and I don't know if he just learned from starting to wrestle that upper tier talent. And not like I'm calling Goto upper tier. I've never been a huge fan again of Goto, but I think that feud with him and Taichi kind of reinforced them both to the point where it's like, you know what? Neither one of these guys are that bad. And then when I saw him carry over what he was doing with Goto to other wrestlers, especially once he got involved in his feuds with the Tekker, or with Zach, and feuds against in the tag team, and then when he started going up against Okada and guys that could actually wrestle, um, I started to see that little light that I saw with Goto kind of turn into a flame. And it's been he might be, if I had to pick anybody over the last couple of years that might be the most improved over the last couple of years, it's got to be Taichi.
yeah, it's got to be.
We knew Osprey was great, so his rise was not surprising. Ishii has always been great. You can go down the list; they've been great. Jay White, we saw the twinkle 3 years ago when he was a young lion. We knew he was going to be great, but Taichi flat out sucked ass 3 years ago. Like, he was my bathroom break match.
I do say that that through these first 4 nights, the that I've seen. I know you said you've seen 3 more nights than I have, but there's been two things that have been disappointing to me. One of them is something that disappoints me every goddamn year in the G1, so I shouldn't be shocked by it,
Oh, Toriano win beating anybody?
which is Sonato's 0-2.
Yeah.
The second one is, yes, that Toriano is 2-0.
Yeah, and it's every single year. I don't know why we get surprised by it anymore with Toriano. Sonata, and we'll get to that in a second. I want to make one point. I know we talked about this before, but it still really, really, really pisses me off that Naito beat Evil and is now the double champion again. I know we've talked about it. I know we've kind of beaten that dead horse, but Evil needed to run that through at least December to become legitimate. Now when you look at the fact he lost to ZSJ, he lost to, I mean, I think what he is, well, I don't want to read anymore. You saw his loss to ZSJ. So
Hmm.
I'm not gonna say any more than that. But when you look at a guy who was the top of the world, and it's ZSJ, I get it. Anybody could lose to him at any time. But you don't want to see Evil, who a month ago was the world champion, now lose to ZSJ in an undercard match in less than 15 minutes.
No, you don't. And speaking of ZSJ, when you looked at
Thank you
these
for not calling him ZSJ, by the way, because I know you said you were going to do that, and I hate that. Just sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
when you looked at the B block, you kind of you're always expecting, you never first of all, you're never expecting that the heavyweight champion is going to win G1, and you're always kind of looking for matches. At least I think most fans are kind of looking for matches like who's going to beat the champion, not only to stop them from winning the block, but also to set up future title shots, right?
Mm,
And when you looked at that, you were like, to me, the three names that stood out to me were Tanahashi, ZSJ, and Evil.
right.
And I did that just I did that just because you mentioned it
Yeah,
this
I
time,
know.
right?
I know. I
Okay.
know. I know. I know. I'm a
and
little pissed off at you
and
for doing that,
and
but I'm
night
more pissed off at myself for reminding you of it.
and
So,
night night two and night four, Tanahashi loses to Naito, and ZSJ loses to Naito.
no,
So
wait, you weren't supposed to look at Night 4 yet. Did you look at Night 4? I thought.
yeah, I said I've seen through night four.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So
I
so
thought it was only through Night 3 because I would have said about the Evil beating Yoshihashi had you not.
yeah, and Evil has to resort to cheating to beat Yoshihashi.
Of course he
Um,
does because it's Evil.
yeah, so ZSJ, so really the two top guys that would have been my picks to face Naito, in in a special challenge title match before Wrestle Kingdom, lost to him.
See,
So now there's maybe Evil left and maybe Kenta left, right?
See, things are going to change.
Okay.
You know,
I mean, and I know Sonata's in that
can't,
mix too, but I really don't think Sonata's going to be the guy.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts next week after watching the next few weeks.
Okay.
And I can't wait to rewatch these in English because after the first two nights, I just kind of went, fuck it, and just started watching everything in Japanese and actually watching the matches and turned down the volume so I wasn't distracted and everything. But
I was actually, going to start watching some more on Tuesday, because we didn't do our show on Tuesday, and
yeah,
I
and
and I
again,
and I was just like fucking wiped out, dude. Like 8 o'clock at night, I was like, I gotta go to sleep. So,
and I
and
apologize
then
for
Melissa
that.
was off last night, so
I mean, I'm working like 15 and 14. Well, today I worked a 13-hour day. Yesterday I worked a 13-hour day. The day
I'm not
before was
allowed
a
to do that.
14. I'm not either. I do it off the clock. Um, shh, don't tell anyone. But it's the only way I
Well,
can
you
get my
well you still well you literally get incentive for doing that. I don't.
right.
So
Yeah, I mean, I get commission for doing it. If I didn't get commission, I wouldn't do it either. But in order to do my job effectively, I need to. And since I'm in sales, I get commissions and everything. So for me, it's a wash. I don't care. I'm sitting here doing nothing anyway except watching NJPW. So, or whatever. I'm almost done with Arrowverse. I've got like 3 episodes left of each show. So,
speaking of like doing like you're talking about multitasking earlier, talking about like you're doing your emails as you're like watching NJPW. I've tried to make a concerted effort this year to watch every match of the G1. I probably won't go and get through every match. I mean, it's just probably not going to happen. But to have my phone put aside, and I'm not touching my phone during these matches. So
I've told you before that there's just certain matches that I've either seen the matchup so many times I don't give a shit, or I don't like one or both of the competitors. Like in night 4,
I
I
know
could care less.
I know you're really looking forward to seeing Yoshihashi versus Yano.
Well, to that respect, I could care less about Toru Yano and Tanahashi. I mean, well, I guess it's no surprise. You've been there since the beginning. You know I'm not a huge Tanahashi fan, never have been.
Hmm.
So it's not a huge surprise to you that that would be a no-go for me.
Right. Would you drop your microphone?
I have no clue what just happened.
Was that like a mic? Was that supposed to be a mic drop or?
Maybe. I don't know what happened. I turned my head, my headphones just ripped off the top of my head.
That's
I
hilarious.
have no clue what happened. Um, but I I've not been a Tanahashi fan. I know everyone loves him. He's the ace, blah blah blah. But he's always been, and I think this might be the first time I ever said my reasoning why I'm not a huge fan of his. But he's always been that '80s cookie cutter, gets in his moves and pops the crowd, but then just runs into the next spot. He reminds me of a Japanese Hulk Hogan. And I was never a Hulk Hogan fan. I was always a Savage fan or uh, um, Jake Roberts fan or Rick Rude fan. I was never a Hogan fan. And Tanahashi reminds me a lot of '80s Hogan, where he's that popular guy, he's the face of the franchise, he's the guy that everyone looks up to, but he does his same 4 or 5 matches every night. He does his same little Hogan does his hands to the ears and Tanahashi does his air guitar. So I've never been a huge Tanahashi fan. I respect the work he does. I've seen some of the work he does and thinks he's an incredible wrestler, but ultimately he's never been one of my guys.
Right.
So as far as Toru Yano and Hiroshi Yano and Tanahashi goes, I'm okay doing some emails and not completely paying attention on that match.
Yeah,
I'm
makes
still
sense.
watching it. If I hear the announcers or the crowd go wild, I might rewind it and see what the move was. Or, if I hear it in English and I'm like they're loud and really into it, I might start it from the beginning and watch it. But ultimately, I give 3 shits and a shake less about that match. Ultimately. So when I'm watching this while I'm doing emails and I'm doing my job, I can always kind of flip back and go, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I can skip over Goto and Sonata because I love Sonata, but I've seen him and Goto together too much. They don't have great chemistry. I'm not huge into that. I can skip over Yano and Tanahashi, have it in the background. Oh my God, the crowd's chanting, so maybe I'll go back and watch what just happened. But then when you get to Evil and Yoshihashi, after Yoshihashi's injury, and we kind of realized how good of a hand he is, I'm watching every Yoshihashi match from here on out until that dude retires. Because we never kind of looked at him as that top flight star, but he was always that worker that got it done and put on a great match, and you could count on for that 5-star match. Much like some of our other favorites that we've loved throughout the years in other companies that were never really the top guy, but they could be counted on to give a 5-star match at any time. Anytime. That's kind of where I am with Yoshihashi. And I, after his little scare that he had earlier this year, I'm kind of like, how much Yoshihashi do we have left? I don't want to miss this.
I'm completely with you on that, and with Kevin Kelly on that. Where, I don't think I told you this funny Kevin Kelly thing either, um, you know, where I can see that spark in Yoshihashi since that injury happened. You know, since that scare happened, where he thought, well, maybe my career is actually over this time, and I'm not just going to be out for a couple of months. You know,
Is it the
and
spark, or is it the fact that we're noticing the spark?
no, it's there. It's there because and it's the same thing that happened with Tetsuya Naito for me. You know,
That's
Naito before he went on an excursion, he always had like this deer in the headlights look to him,
yep.
where he just seemed like he was lost all the time, or that the spotlight or that the stage was too big for him. And as good as Yoshihashi is in the ring, I always felt like, I knew like if he was against
Just nailed it,
Okada or
actually.
Tanahashi or ZSJ, we'd get a 4 to 5 star match. There always were times where he looked like he was lost in the spotlight.
And I think you just nailed
And
it.
now I don't see it.
I think you just nailed it with me, and maybe that's why I'm investing more in Yoshihashi is because I started watching his matches because I realized what a great hand he was, but I never really loved him as a character, never bought into it. But I have started to notice myself more and more going, I like what he's doing. I
Hmm.
like the way he does that. I like the fact that he feels bigger now. He just feels bigger. So I think you might have nailed it. Maybe it was I just didn't notice that before, but I felt like his match against Evil was really, really strong. Like I felt like that match against him and Evil would have been a main event at some point down the line when they, mix it up for a heavyweight title or an IC title or something.
I almost feel like that as great as the Japanese dojo system is, the New Japan dojo system is, that it kind of breeds that kind of thing where you're beaten down so much and you're looking for that praise so much for your mentors in the crowd that
Thank
eventually
you, Shibata.
like you're just kind of like looking out in the crowd and you're kind of like lost in that spotlight, just kind of like trying to do anything you can to get that crowd approval. You know,
You can see that
rather than just being like natural and trying to be yourself out there. You
you
know.
can see that a lot with Uemura.
Yep.
Have you seen that where he'll all of a sudden he'll be just almost like he's waiting for somebody to appreciate him.
And
I've seen that a lot with him.
the weird thing is I've seen it with Master Watto since he got back, but I didn't see that when he was a young lion. You know, so
And I don't remember him as a young lion, so I can't comment, but I've noticed that exact what you're saying with Uemura, and there's one other guy, a guy on the American side, and I can't think of his name right now.
yeah. So I mean, I just think that at some point you've got to step out of that shell and just go for it. And I think that this Yoshihashi has finally done that now.
Which is sad.
And he's in his early 30s. He's in the
Yeah,
same class. He was in the same class as Okada. So
right. And that's what I'm saying. It's really sad because he, as great of an in-ring performer and as technical as he is smooth in all of his matches. Everything I see from him is crisp and right on point. And maybe that was the thing that was holding Yoshihashi back was his deer in the headlights look. where he just didn't have that confidence. Maybe now, this scare that his career might be over, maybe it lit a fire in him. Maybe we're going to finally get Yoshihashi, which I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe Yoshihashi might actually be at that moment in his life and his career where he could ascend that ladder to that upper main event and be a legitimate contender. Like if I
Well, if you
saw
think about it, he's not that much older now than Naito was when Naito got to that point. You know,
right,
because Naito's a few years older than both Tanahashi or both Yoshihashi and Okada. You know, so and it took until what, like 5 years ago before Naito finally got, not even 5 years, yeah, just under
no,
five
it's
years
five.
ago,
Yeah,
just under. It was like February 2016
yep.
where Naito finally ascended to that championship.
And he was not believable at that time. That's the thing about Naito is even though he won that belt, he was still not that believable champion,
Hmm.
which I'm afraid they kind of did with Evil too. By having Evil, and I don't know, I may have mentioned
They
it.
both got one title defense and then lost the belt back to the former champion.
Yeah,
So,
but it was the fact that they got title defenses against different quality of opponents. Taking nothing away from Takahashi, but he's a junior going against a heavyweight. And that brings me back to another thing that I'm going to say now, and then we'll get back to this. I know I said it before, but again, the fact that Shingo lost to Suzuki in his first title defense against a heavyweight did more to damage Shingo than anything else could have. All he was doing was trying to prove that he could fight with the heavyweights, fight with the heavyweights. He had 3 title defenses against juniors. He won them all. But the second he's up against a heavyweight, he loses. And that's kind of the same thing here,
but it,
where I
but
just
he'll get that belt back this year.
probably, yeah. But it was just one of those things where they've built Shingo up so much and they're trying to make him this legitimate, never, he'll go against juniors, he'll go against heavyweights, he goes against juniors and dominates, of course, because he's bigger than juniors. But then the second he gets in against a heavyweight, even though technically size wise he's bigger than Minoru Suzuki, he's just not as tall as Suzuki, he loses. And losing to, and I'm never going to fault anybody for losing to that 52-year-old badass. But the fact that he lost to a 52-year-old guy on top of losing, the general public's looking and going, he can't hang.
But okay, so I've got a couple follow ups to that. But the first
Okay.
one is the first one before I follow up on the second one, which I think is going to be a longer discussion, is do you think that it's simply the fact that Shingo was a Dragon Gate guy? That, they see there's a ceiling to him, so it doesn't really matter to them, necessarily who he wins and loses against. He's never going to be above that never level, because even as talented as he is, he was built by another company.
Probably because they're doing the same thing to Kenta with his Noah experience.
Yeah. The
I,
second
I, I truly feel like they're doing the same thing to Kenta.
Yeah, and they probably are, but that's their right to do. I really do think that Shingo was a great get for them, but he's a great get in the sense he'll put on great matches. He can be a challenger, but he's never going to be one of the pillars for them.
Right, exactly. And kind of you can look at WWE for the same thing. How long did it take before a outsider became a heavyweight champion? AJ
Yeah,
Styles,
yeah. Well, if Ric Flair,
you
I
know.
suppose, but that was years and years and years ago.
Well, and
So
Ric Flair at the time, 90s, you could not deny Ric Flair. Everybody, whether you were a WWF fan or not, knew who Ric Flair was. Um, so that was a little different. But if you go past, say, 95,
hmm
and you look at the champions they've had and the people that have come in, you bring in superstars from TNA, you bring in superstars from WCW, Japan, Ring of Honor, and so on. They're not going to compete with the top dogs in the WWF because you don't want to make your guys look bad. Yeah, Christian left, went on to become a big deal in TNA, and then came back and won a title. But how long do you hold that title? One day?
The funny thing is that
You know,
that's that you say that, and you're not wrong, but when you're saying that, what you really mean is guys that became superstars in another promotion or major
right.
champions in another promotion
Yep.
and came in, because if Eric Bischoff had been smarter, WCW never would have lost that war
No,
because the four guys that were carrying WWE. I mean, you can't, and not The Rock, right, but everybody else: Steve Austin, Undertaker, Triple H, Mick Foley, Dustin Rhodes. They were all guys that were in WCW before they were in WWE.
but they were never guys who were top
And
stars.
that's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that's why I'm just qualifying what you're saying, because I know we're gonna, listeners might say, well, no, what about all these guys? But you're talking about guys that made to the tippy top of a promotion. So
And when they were in WCW, they were mid carders at best.
right, right.
They never broke through that mid card ceiling. Now, had Austin stuck around in WCW with to be honest, I think had Stunning Steve Austin stayed Stunning Steve Austin in WCW, eventually I do believe he would have been able to make it to the top because he had that attitude, he had that look and likable factor that I think would have eventually made him a top star. He never would have reached the stratosphere like he did with WWF, though.
No, I think you can say the same thing for Dustin Rhodes as well. If Dustin had stayed there, he would have also been a top guy in that company.
Right.
So and
So,
and and we would talk and who knows if WCW would still be around or not, but we would talk about that rivalry. Every time you bring up Triple H and Steve Austin, I bring up Steve Austin and Dustin Rhodes,
right.
because that to me was, they feuded over the TV title, they feuded over the US title, they feuded over the tag titles. I mean, those guys were just as strong a rivalries in WCW as we've ever seen, really. So
Yeah, which always made me kind of, and I remember that too, which always made me kind of cringe because their feuds when Austin was part of the Dangerous Alliance and Dustin was off being the babyface they were facing,
hmm
their feuds were amazing. And it always disappointed me that uh, Dustin never beat or got up to that level in WWF.
hmm
He was, and I don't know if it's because of his gimmick and the gold dust thing and everything,
hmm
but he was just never taken on that same level.
no.
And it's a shame because what they did in WCW, had they been able to do that in WWF on the heavyweight level, would have elevated that company even more.
Yep, agree. The other thing I wanted to stem from what you're talking about with Shingo is another guy who we've seen rise from the junior heavyweight division, and now he's facing heavyweights in the G1 just like Shingo is. So it's second year in a row,
Yep.
and I just want to ask you, how real is the possibility that the main event for Wrestle Kingdom is going to feature one William Osprey?
I think if there's ever going to, I pushed for it a couple years ago. Remember how badly I wanted Jay White there?
Yep.
But I think if there's ever going to be a gringo that makes it, it's going to be Will Osprey. His speech at the end of night or after his match in night one was arrogant and pompous,
Mm-hmm.
and like I want to punch you in the face because you're such a dick who thinks the only thing that matters is you're being an NJPW.
Yep.
But the crowd ate it up. And that right there told me that if there's anybody that's not Japanese that's going to make it to the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, it's going to be him.
Yeah, see, I mean, I look at everything that's going on, and I look at the fact that at least through night four he was 2-0, and I'm looking at this going, he came back, he's been the junior heavyweight champion, he's been on this trajectory, rising up. He's the British heavyweight champion, which is basically the NJPW British style,
Mhm.
and
Exactly.
we're looking at this, and I'm going, you know, the real the big favorite has got to be Kazuchika Okada.
Yes.
And but that was the main event of Wrestle Kingdom Night 2. It was the main event of Wrestle Kingdom not the year before, but the year before that, so Wrestle Kingdom 12 too.
Right.
And it was the main event of Wrestle Kingdom 10. So um or was it 11? No, it was 10.
It was 11. No, because 10 was Tanahashi.
Yeah, so it was 11. Okay, so So I mean, the thing is, so how many times can we see that at Wrestle Kingdom in such a short period of time? So I'm just wondering, like, are we looking at? And I know you have another theory on this, but I
Yes,
but I,
because I
but I,
sent it
but I,
to you today because I was so
but
excited when
but
I thought about it. I
but
had
I
to send it.
but I'm looking at this going, can we really see this as? Is it just a smokescreen? Is Kazuchika Okada in the block against the guy that's going to win it, but it's going to be Will Ospreay facing up against Naito for the championship at Wrestle Kingdom?
I think yes and no. To be honest, Will Osprey winning. When I look at this A block, there's two names that jump out: Osprey and Jay White. Those are the two names that jump out. With the way that Jay White started this tournament, and the fact that he started at 0-3 last year and still made the final, the fact that Jay White is that pillar that we've talked about with above when Omega left, he kind of took over that pillar. Um, and he has been the solid hand he has been for 3 years. Plus, he's the leader of the only real heel stable. I know Suzuki Gun is one, but let's face it, it's Minoru Suzuki, and with KES leaving and only ZSJ there, they've got two actual people you can count on.
Uh,
Tai Chi
Tai.
is getting there. Tai
Okay,
Chi
okay.
is getting there. But outside of me, who loves the guy and who would actually buy into him winning it, how many other people out there will?
No, I would not buy at this point. In this point, I would not buy into Tai Chi winning the G1. No, I
I
would
would
not.
buy into it at this point. So I'm ahead of you there. So I'm trying to look at this realistically. If Suzuki won it, we'd be like, yeah, I get it. If ZSJ won it, it's finally deserved. If Tai Chi won it, there'd be a lot of people going, what the fuck? I think he's like a year and a half, maybe 2 years away from being at that level.
Yeah.
But if he, in my mind, if he were to win it, I'd be like, yeah, okay, because I'm about a year and a half ahead of you guys. Just saying. But um, I think realistically, I think there's two guys that you can put your hat on to win the A block, and that's Osprey and White. The B block, unfortunately, the only guy that I can really buy into, like, I can't see Evil running the table like he did against, like he did in the New Japan Cup a
Hmm.
second time.
Right.
ZSJ is there, but ZSJ has also not been pushed to the moon like he should be. Kenta lost to the one you saw was against Juice Robinson. He's out of it for me at that point. The only guy I can really see winning the B block is Naito.
Not
Honestly,
not
that's the only
juice.
guy I can see.
Not juice.
No, nope, nope. The only guy I can legitimately see winning the B block at this point is Naito. And that's where I'm like with the A block, this is what really frustrates me is because the A block is so stacked. I can see Osprey and White; those are my two favorites.
But what if
But
Kenta does? What if Kenta does win B block and Jay White wins A block?
no,
Imagine that.
it's not going to happen.
But just imagine it though.
Um, you do realize that Kenta has to face Evil coming up here,
Yeah, and
and
he also
Evil
he
has
also
been the Jay
faces
White.
Naito on the last night of B block. That can't be a
Yeah, but
coincidence.
that's old news now. They're former stablemates. They don't count. Nah, fuck them. He has to face his stablemate, Evil, coming up here.
Oh, I see what you're
Now,
saying. Okay.
but see, when you're looking at like I said before, when you're looking at the A block, there are six, maybe seven legitimate guys that could, if they won it, I'd be like, that makes sense. And then there's two more that if you throw them in there, I'd be like, not surprising. I get it. On the B block, there is literally one, maybe two guys that I could say, yeah, I could see them winning it. That's Naito and ZSJ.
And
Evil, I
you know what's really going to happen is and then NJPW is going to lean back and laugh at all of us. It's going to be Tanahashi winning B block and Okada winning A block, and facing
Oh,
each
dear
other in the
God, no.
finals again.
No more. No. 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 I will fucking cancel my shit. Gato, are you listening? I will cancel my shit. I do not want to see those two again. They were great 5 years ago. I can't see that again.
Oh come on, they were great last year against each other.
Fair enough. Fair
But
enough.
you know, don't you think you would just kind of like sit back and just kind of chuckle softly if that really did
Yeah,
happen?
and then I'd shut the fucking channel off and be like, "Let me know when Wrestle Kingdom's over,
You fucking got me again, Gato.
dickhead." No, but it's weird. It's really weird looking at this block, and I'm gonna probably be surprised because I am every year. But I can legitimately see, like I said, 6 or 7 guys coming out of the A block. And if if 2 out of the other 10 made it, I'd be fine.
Hmm.
But out of the B block, 2 guys, that's it. Anyone else that makes it, actually, I'm gonna take that back. 2 guys I see as legit could win it. 2 guys I'd be okay with. Anyone else, I'm like, oh, you fucked me, Gato.
So who are the four guys then?
Naito and ZSJ, I could legitimately see winning it. Like if they won it, I would not be surprised.
Okay.
The other two, Evil, and even knowing what I know, Kenta, I could see possibly winning it. The rest of them, because of current, the way they've been shown recently, or not shown, like I can't see the Ace winning it with his knee issues and elbow issues and everything else. And I can't see Toriano winning it because, well, he's a fucking joke. Um, Sonata has been so downplayed over the last couple of years, and same thing with Goto. I can't see either one of those 2 guys winning it. So that literally leaves us to a few people, unless they're gonna bite the bullet on Yoshihashi and pull an Evil in the New Japan Cup. I there's really only 2 guys in it's Naito and ZSJ, and it's got to be Naito because he's the heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to put the heavyweight champion in the finals or winning the G1. So,
Well, and that
and I think that, and I have to think that him facing Kenta in the main event of the B block final night has got to mean something. So I mean, it's either Kenta will be winning it or he'll still be mathematically alive when he faces Naito. So
that's a possibility.
it's got to be one of the two. Otherwise, why even have that match?
Well, that kind of brings me to my booking possibilities. Um, and you and I talked about this, and I know we're an hour. What? Jesus. Normally our shows are an hour, but the fact that
They've been going along lately.
yeah, because we don't talk that much anymore. With work, we don't get our frustrations out on Mondays, so we talk a little longer on, well, today's Thursday, but um, bring,
Guess how many episodes of Flash and Supergirl I've watched since I finished the season 3 and season 4?
oh my God, how many? One?
0.
I'm gonna punch you in the face. The only thing I want to do is talk about the DC universe. Like, literally, that's all I want to do. I have 3 episodes left of the DC universe. I'm done with Arrow. Watched it all. I've got 3 episodes left of Flash, Supergirl, 2 of Batman or a Batwoman, and 2 of Black Lightning, and 4 of Legends. Then I'm done. I'm done with the universe at that point. So you need to catch the fuck up.
Nah, I don't want to.
Ugh, I hate you.
I'll get there eventually, but I have other stuff I wanted to finish too. So
Well, I'm rushing through it because I want to move to Supernatural. So
okay.
anyway, the I kind of laid this out to you today because I was so excited about it I couldn't hold it. What I want to see happen here.
And that's okay because you're home alone, so you can pee in your pants if you need to.
Well, I can't
Oh,
because that's gross. I at least have a diaper on. Anyway, what I want to see happen from a booking perspective. And part of it is because I want to see two things happen. One, I want to see my second favorite wrestler in NJPW finally get respect. And two, I really, really badly want to see the heavyweight title and the Intercontinental title break up. So, booking going forward, I want to see Naito win the G1 against Jay White. Hold on. In sketchy fashion, we're not, because Naito is clearly the face, blah, blah. I want to see it happen in a way where Gato misses his mark on Naito and maybe hits Jay White with whatever, with the kendo stick or whatever he's using at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that Naito gets knocked out, or I'm sorry, Jay White gets knocked out, Naito wins the match. Jay White has a reason to be pissed. But at the same time, because Naito wins the G1, he goes on and names Sonata as his Wrestle Kingdom opponent. That will lead, because because Jay White has a legitimate gripe against not winning the match, because he'll play it off, Gato interfered without my knowledge, but whatever heel thing he does. We now get a best of 3 series with Sonata and Jay White for the rest of the year. Jay White eventually wins that series, which gives him the title shot, the heavyweight title shot at Wrestle Kingdom. But because Naito promised Sonata the shot, he gets the IC shot. So on night 1, we have Naito versus Sonata for the IC title. Naito wins, or I'm sorry, Sonata wins. He gets, and then, night 2 is White versus Naito. Of course, I think Naito should win, but at the same time, I don't care. What I'm more focused on is Sonata. Sonata has been at the top of your and my list for 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
He really, really got dogged a year and a half ago to a year ago, to the point where he is now not believable as that guy that can be that heavyweight champ. He's not believable as that upper echelon guy. He still puts on great matches, but he's kind of coming across as a Yoshihashi great hand. So I think by Naito appointing him as the next guy, he goes out there and wins 1 out of 3 matches with Jay White. They put on some great matches. He goes to Wrestle Kingdom. He beats Naito in night 1. One of 2 things happens. First of all, he beat the Mega Champ. Secondly, he proved, or one of 3 things. Secondly, he proves that he can hang with those guys again, starts to be able to build himself back up to what we want him to be. And third, we separate those fucking 2 championships finally a year later.
Yeah, it's not a bad scenario. I like it a lot, actually.
It'd be
Do I think it's going to happen? No,
no, of course not. Yeah, no, it won't.
but I do like it. I do like where your mind's at with that.
It was just one of those booking things when I was watching, because I was watching night 6 tonight, or today when I messaged you that, and I'm like, this would be awesome. I want to see this happen. And I thought about it. Will it really? No. But
No.
it'd be great. It would be great if it did. That's the greatest booking I've ever seen. Oh, yeah, because I thought of it. Just say.
Yeah, it does sound great. I'm a little bit jealous that you're able to like watch while you're working, because I just can't. I'm got I got my training class to do, so I can't just like TV while I'm trying to train people.
See, and I can't either during actual hours when I've got meetings and phone calls and all that stuff. The only reason I'm able to is because I work a lot of off hours. So, instead of playing Call of Duty, instead of playing or dealing with this and that when my son's not here like he isn't this week, I'm able to actually just sit down and go through emails. And while I'm doing that, I watch TV or I watch shows or whatever. And this last week, I put in 12 and a half to 13-hour days every day this week. So, it's a little bit different where it's like I log off at 5 officially, but I still work till 7:30. Last night I worked till 8:15. Started at 6:45.
Wow.
So and I don't mind it. I really don't. I don't mind it because I'm able to turn on NJPW and have the matches going and watch when I want to and take a little break. I may have taken a 20-minute break to watch um, the Jay White match, and then I'm right back to work and I'm just answering emails and going through that stuff. So it's a little bit easier because I'm not in the operations side. I'm in the other side. So my job is a whole different experience than yours.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not saying I want to sit there and watch TV while I'm training because that'd just be ridiculous. I'm just
I
saying
don't
that
want to sit and I can't sit there and I can't sit there and watch TV when I'm trying to make phone calls and things like that.
no.
But once the hours are done and I'm just plugging through emails and doing my job, I can have it on in the background.
Yeah, and that's
And
and that's the thing is like I couldn't even do that if I wanted to because of this new thing I have installed on my computer. So
oh geez,
I'm sorry they haven't done that to you guys yet. So
what is it?
it's called Work IQ,
Oh yeah,
and
it's on mine.
oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't use my computer to watch TV. I
Well, no,
use
no,
my
no.
phone.
Well, no, but don't you aren't you concerned that you're doing these hours off the clock and your boss is going to see you working all these hours on Work IQ?
Yeah, they have for years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they report what I log. I log 8.
See, and I think that my new director would be like, "What are you doing all these hours on here?" So
Mine does all the time, but ultimately in my position, results mean more.
gotcha.
I mean, they crack down on me all the time. They've actually asked me multiple times to log off, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Don't worry.
Because really, like I log off and I'm like, I really should have done like another hour of prep for tomorrow, and then I'm like, yeah,
But like
I'll do it in my half hour before work tomorrow morning. So.
like we talked about before the show, you don't get paid for that.
No, but it's still as a trainer, I want my trainees to be the best that they can be and to be as prepared as possible for that class and make sure that I'm getting every resource I
Right.
can give them
No, and I get that.
for them to be amazing representatives.
And that's kind of the way I am in just my normal life. I want to do the extra because I want anyone that I talk to be that extra. So I get that.
Oh, you're
For
extra,
me,
all right.
wow, that was painful. Excuse me, I'm gonna crawl under my desk right now and cry while I suck on my thumb. Asshole. Anyway, for me, for me and my job, being the job I get and the incentives I get, it for me working those extra hours, yes, I shouldn't. Yes, I'm not getting paid an hourly wage for it, but I'm getting paid in a roundabout way because the more I do, the more I make.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean,
And I know that in my position, like I hardly ever take breaks anyway, so
yeah,
it's
and
and I get yelled at by my wife about it. But
I did
but
too.
the rest of my team does the same thing where we just we don't even feel like we should take a break because we have so much that we're doing. So
My breaks are literally my lunch break is I'm hungry. I'm gonna go make a sandwich. Okay,
hmm
back to emails.
yeah,
Then
exactly.
um, so my lunch break that's supposed to be 30 minutes, mandatory, whatever, is 2 minutes. And I'm not saying that I skip it because I'm getting anything extra. I'm saying I'm skipping it because I'm that dedicated to my job because I know the outcome of my job. and I love my job even though my job doesn't love me. And I'm in the same boat you are. If I was where you were as a trainer, I'd be doing the same thing. Extra hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. I got nothing else going on. I'm going to make my shit the best I can.
Yep,
So
exactly.
I get that, and I'm kind of the same way. Tonight, I had nothing going on before we did this. So I worked for an extra 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
No questions, didn't care. I had nothing to do anyway, and I make more in the long run.
I no, I get it. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that I just don't think that it would fly with my current boss. Is all I was saying. So
It doesn't fly with my current boss either. I have to argue about it every other week. Literally every other week when it comes time to do payroll, she's like, "What the fuck did you do? Don't worry about it. I got this covered." No, seriously, I need to explain this. What the fuck did you do? Um, I accidentally left my computer on. Just tell them that. Oh, okay. Um, but anyway, so guys, I think we came to the end of tonight.
we
Except for the
did.
fact that I really, 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 really fucking want Shane to finish DC Universe. Because if I don't get to talk about this in 3 episodes, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I'll finish it eventually.
I hate you. Oh, by the way, you had an idea for Monday night. We're gonna actually bring back our YouTube show on Monday night, and Shane had an idea.
Yeah,
What was that?
we're just gonna talk about video games. We're gonna talk about. I really I've been looking at the comments on people playing Super Mario 3D All Stars. And I've been looking on the comments of people that are buying a PS5. I've been looking on the comments of the PS Plus games that have been released the last few months, and I'm like, guys, settle the fuck down. So I just kind of want to
Right.
talk. I just kind of want to talk about like this negativity that's out there for some reason. Like, why do you care? What other people are buying. Why do you care if a game that's on PlayStation Now goes on PS Plus? Why do you care if Mario 3D All Stars is using emulators instead of built right again from the ground up? Why don't you just enjoy the games and play? That's what video games are
Eh,
supposed to be about, is fun, guys.
When
So
Shane mentioned that to me that he wants to talk about it on Monday, I was all in. And the reason why is because I play a lot of multiplayer, a lot of cross-play multiplayer, a lot of PS4 versus Xbox versus PC multiplayer. The hatred, the everything. So we're going to talk about that on Monday. That's going to be on our YouTube channel and eventually on our Patreon. Our YouTube channel, of course, hopefully you're listening to it now. If you are, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, then head over to the alternate. If you're listening on, was it LOP Calvin?
yep.
Um, After you're done hitting the subscribe, like, notification bell, head over to Kingdom of Honor and do the same thing, vice versa. Listen to us on YouTube. Love us. We're great. Anyway, moving on. Also, Patreon. We do have our own Patreon channel, and I apologize to our subscribers. We have a few of them, and we appreciate all of you guys, and I thank you so much for holding on while we're trying to figure things out. This is a rough time of the year, but eventually we're going to be getting back to our Monday shows, where we talk about just pop culture in general, our exclusive Patreon shows where we talk about whatever random wrestling thing we're talking about, and of course our normal shows that we're still doing on Kingdom of Honor. We'll be getting back to that, but please, if you're not a subscriber, if you don't know the website, head over there. It's patreon.com/, Kingdom of Honor. We do already have a lot of exclusive things on there, including breakdowns of, we like to call it our Desert Island series. We've done it for a number of wrestlers, including Benoit, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Rob Van Dam, and so on. Uh,
Harley Race.
Harley Race, yeah, was another one. And we still want to do it for AJ Styles, but that's a difficult one. That might be a two-parter, Shane, now that I'm thinking about it. because there's so much greatness with AJ Styles.
There really is.
But you can check that out. You can check out we've broken down other events throughout time, ECW from the beginning, Ring of Honor from the Sinclair era, and other stuff throughout time. And we're going to continue to do that. That's at patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. And then Twitter. He is at ZanmanLOP. He doesn't tweet much. Don't follow him. And me, I'm at Regi Co-op. You can get to both of us by just using the hashtag KOH, and that will pretty much give you every tweet we've ever done.
I actually sent a tweet out last Wednesday. I was pretty impressed with myself.
I know I saw that. I kind of cried a little because I was so happy that you actually used social media. But then I realized it was a one-time thing. So
Yeah, so stay tuned. Stay tuned for all that. Stay tuned for the rest of the shows here on LOP Radio. That's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.